1-2. The ravine rises, ready to erupt.
Good morning, Kansas City. This is New Day with SSJ on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Stephen St. John. Solo. Sometimes I have somebody in here with me, but not today.
Stan will be here soon.
Or at least not, that's right, not to begin the show. But we have the Drake filling in for the Jake. One more day of Drake filling in. No show tomorrow.
I'm here Monday.
Yeah, I said one more day.
Oh, okay. I thought you were including today.
No. After today. This is this is Thursday. Man, all week long I've had no idea what day it is. And so, lock it in. It's Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. Royals lost again. All right, we got that out of the way. Thank you. Sorry about that. Oh, hey, look. Another frustrating loss. Okay. Noah Cameron. No run support. So, again, very familiar words. We get a break like 2 nights ago when they beat Seattle 6-3. But just when you think, oh, they scored 9, that'll snap them out of this offensive slump. Nope. Oh, they scored 6, and they're on the road. Okay. Now they're rolling. Nope. And slump's a bad term. This is just who they are. This is what they are. 3-2. So back to scoring 2 runs or 1 run or no runs. They had a lead. The offense was offensive. And the Royals lose again to Seattle. So, look, what can I say? What can I say that I haven't already said a million times? So we just sit and watch. We sit and watch, and now the anticipation is, what are they going to do? Again, we talk about that every day. Are they going to stay all in and try to add to the offense and try to continue to push for a wild card? Because as Scott Sharp said, yes, half the season is over, so it's not a small sample size, but there's still almost half the season left. So it's not like they're in the final month of the season, but you can just when you've listened to J.J. Piccolo talk, when you've listened to Scott Sharp talk, it's they're waiting for this team to give them a reason to go and be aggressive in the trade market, and the team isn't doing that. And so the next step, the next thing you wonder is, are they going to trade Seth Lugo? Are they going to trade any veterans to try to, again, not rebuild, not trade for a couple of prospects that are far away from the major leagues, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some organizations, that's what the game plan needs to be. Trade for more high upside talent, lottery tickets that aren't so close to the majors but could be huge payoffs. But even if the Royals decide, okay, we are not serious contenders this year, this is not a team that has to take a huge step back and rebuild and plan on trying to make the playoffs again in 3 years. This is a team that I still think will consider themselves contenders for next year. And so if you trade Lugo, if you trade Carlos Estevez, if you trade Michael Lorenzen, hell, if you trade I would still be on board with them trading a catching prospect. Remember when I told you about the Cubs acquiring Michael Busch, the very good hitting prospect that it kind of bounced around, and maybe he was a third baseman, maybe he was a first baseman. The Dodgers tried him at a couple of different positions, and there was no path for him for playing time in L.A. And he was putting up monster numbers. His last full minor league season in the Dodgers organization, he had an OPS over 1,000. And he'd get call-ups every now and again when guys would get hurt, but they didn't have a permanent spot for him. And so the Cubs and the Dodgers made a trade, and it was basically a trade of prospects. And the upside for Michael Busch was he went to an organization that there was a path for playing time. And now he's the starting first baseman for a really good Cubs team, a really good Cubs offense, and his OPS is around 880. And he's a damn good hitter. And so that was a prospects for prospects deal. And what I'm suggesting to you is, don't, even if you don't believe the Royals are contenders, don't turn your nose up at the Royals trading a catching prospect or trading some pitching for an outfield prospect or an outfielder that might be roadblocked. Just because a prospect or just because a guy is blocked in his organization, and I keep using the Michael Busch comparison because I think it fits, that doesn't mean he's not good enough to be an impact player for your organization. And I'm not talking about a 27 or 28-year-old guy that could be considered a 4A player or a fourth or fifth outfielder at the major league level. I'm talking about a true prospect like Busch was. He's roadblocked with the Dodgers. The Cubs and the Dodgers swing a deal. The path opens up for him for playing time at the major league level. And now see what he's done for the Cubs and see where the Cubs are. And so even if you decide, okay, the Royals, they're not going to do it this year. They're not going to really make a serious run at the postseason. You can still trade one of your prospects from a position that you have depth at, like catcher, and turn that in to an outfielder who's ready to take that next step to the major leagues. And so I'd be down for that too. If you've identified a guy that you think could step right into the outfield and be inserted into your lineup and be an upgrade, then okay, I'd be down for trading Lugo and a catching prospect. That's fine. Be creative, because guess what? And I keep saying this over and over again. This is not just for what they need right now or in the second half of the season. This is what they need for next year and the year after that. Is there a candidate right now that's even close in their system that you could say could come up and be the answer at left field anytime soon? No. So you have to not only think about what can help you now, but especially for this team, if they're not going to make a serious run at the postseason in the second half, you have to think about what's going to help you bounce back and take that step back forward next year. And even if they don't solve the problem before the trade deadline this year, they're going to go into the offseason, and number one and number two on their shopping list, on their wish list, is going to be outfield help and offensive help. So if you can do that now, if you can find the right team that is pitching needy, that is desperate for a pitcher like Seth Lugo, that you could also perhaps tempt with a catching prospect, or who knows, add another arm, then you take advantage of it. Because, once again, what are the three ways you can try to fill this hole in the outfield? Internally, out of your own system, they've tried to do that. That hasn't worked. They tried Drew Waters, hasn't worked. John Rave, hasn't worked. They put India out there, didn't work. They looked at Lofton out there, didn't work. Okay? So cross that off the list. They're trying with Caglione. The results are not good right now. But they're going to keep trying with him. They're going to keep pushing with him. And no matter what they do with him between now and the end of the season, he's going to be in the lineup and part of the plan's opening day 2026. And so what are the other two options? Free agency, they went down that road. They had success a couple of years ago signing free agent pitchers. They tried to swim in those waters in the offseason, could not land a hitter, an outfielder via free agency. They were unwilling to go 3 years on a couple of offers instead of 2 years. They were unwilling to outbid teams like the Toronto Blue Jays. And look, again, that's a mixed bag because some of the names, like Profar, some of the names that were on the list that they were chasing, they were pursuing, they were linked to, either got suspended for PEDs or have been hurt or have underperformed. And so that's not always the answer. So the third possibility and the most likely possibility and the way that they're going to have to attack this is trade. And then you have to consider the timing. Do you wait till the offseason? Well, then no, because then you've lost one of your most valuable commodities to trade. And who's that? Lugo. But the clock is ticking. We're at July 3rd now. And the trade deadline will be here before you know it. And that's why we said a week and a half ago that this next stretch is so important. Because the Royals will be revealing who they really are. And right now, who are they? A team that's not quite good enough to land a wild card spot with the way this roster is constructed right now. And look, guess what? They move some things around. And here's another example. Drake, do you see the horse here that I keep beating, the dead horse? Here we go again.
I see it.
When Detroit traded Jack Flaherty, a guy you're familiar with because of your love of St. Louis, you know Jack Flaherty, don't you? When Detroit traded him at the deadline, what was the thought around baseball? Well, Detroit waving the white flag, they're trading Flaherty. That's what they should do. But things came together, and their young players played well. And they got hot down the stretch. And where did they end up? In the postseason. Kind of flamed out in the postseason, but still. And then what happened? They brought Flaherty back. And now what are they? Probably the favorites to go to the World Series to face the Dodgers or whoever the National League representative is. Now, it's very difficult to follow that path. But let's say the Royals did trade Lugo. Who knows? Then maybe Cags gets hot, and whoever they acquire is an impact bat, and things come together, and Reagans comes back. It's a lot of ifs, I know. Go with me here. My point is, there's still the possibility that they could be a good baseball team. It's not going to be a fire sale. We've seen fire sales in this town before. This ain't it. They still believe in the nucleus. And so that's why this is so fascinating. Look, I'd much rather them be winning and there'd be no doubt, oh, we're buyers, let's go. We're acquiring another bat. We're going to add another arm to the bullpen. Let's get this. That would be awesome. And we'd be all unified behind that idea. But the Royals aren't winning enough games to be able to say that and to be able to believe that. So now, they just can't sit on their hands Or as Ned Yost once told Nate Bukaty, sit on your thumb, which I don't, that's a Nate thing. I don't get it. But it's to each their own. I don't judge people for what they do. Very much. And so that would be the worst thing to me. Doing nothing. That would be the worst thing to me, doing nothing. Because you either got to decide, you know what? We still believe we're going to do this. Let's go. Make a move. Or, you know what? It ain't happening this year. We're going to take a small step back to hopefully take 2 steps forward next year. Did I get that right? Right. 1 step back, and then you went 2 forward. Because one time I said you want to take 2 steps back to take 1 step forward, and then I thought, wait a minute. Then you're back a step further than you were, and that sucks. Although we've seen the Royals organization do that in the past. So take 1 back and 2 forward, and then you've advanced. And that would be taking Lugo and capitalizing on his value right now and getting someone that can help you right now and in the next several years. You got to identify a guy that can help you over the next several years because there's a void in this system right now. Not only at the major league level, that's why we're not talking about someone knocking on the door. Like the guys that we were campaigning for, they're already here, and it ain't working. Cags ain't going anywhere. Like if they decide to send him down to try to reset at AAA, we've seen the Royals do that before with Alex Gordon and with Mike Moustakas. That's happened. Okay, so there's examples of that working out. But what we also know is John Rave ain't it. Drew Waters ain't it. Nick Lofton ain't it. And if you tell me, Drake, you say, hey, you guys keep talking about corner outfield, why don't you go find a center fielder that hits too? Okay. I like Kyle Osbell. He's really good defensively. But if you could find a guy, a toolsy outfielder, that can also be more of an impact offensively, all right.
I'm fine with that, sure.
Okay, there. See, Drake likes it.
Always be making the team better.
Right. And so you got to do either the one or the two. You can't sit there and do nothing. Okay? But that's why it's so interesting. That's why it's so fascinating. What are they going to do? How are they going to approach it? If they do flip Lugo, do they have to pair him with something else to be able to get the bat that they want? It seems like the Dodgers would be a good fit. It seems like the Cubs might be a good fit. Hell, it seems like maybe the Blue Jays could be a good fit. There are teams out there that fit what the Royals might be looking for, and that's a good thing because you want multiple teams out there that are interested in Lugo if they decide to trade him.
And if multiple teams are interested, maybe you don't have to throw something else in.
Right. Let them bid against each other. But they continue to play this out and to find out where they are. And they've had opportunities to turn things around, and they're digging a hole that is going to be too deep for them to come out of. Surprisingly and shockingly, it's not deep enough yet. But that's where it's trending. 40 and 47. Yikes. Ooh, I didn't like saying that. Oh, well. Hey, it is what it is. So, good. Another game against the Mariners that's real late on a weeknight. Yay. Sorry, it's just a personal thing.
Tomorrow's a holiday.
Right, but I'm still not staying up to watch that. Now, here's the deal. I feel like I got to stay up and watch the game because I got to talk about it the next day. I'm not talking about it the next day, so the odds, if they're losing, of me pushing through past 11 p.m., Drake, and they put up 1 or 2 runs, no. Now, hey, if they're hitting the ball, running the bases, scoring some runs, okay, all right, let's go. Crack open another Diet Dr. Pepper, let's party. But I'm not, it will literally become a snooze fest for me because I'll be snoozing.
Is it weird for me to think that until they start scoring runs, they need to stop trying to steal bases? That seems counterintuitive, but I feel that way.
Their base running has not been great, but I've talked to enough people and enough former players that sit in this room and talk with me, and they say that there's a direct correlation because they put more pressure on themselves on the base paths to make something happen, and you see them running into outs, making base running errors. And so that's the other crazy thing. This team that was pretty damn good at doing the little things, and we've seen that when the Royals are good, they're good at running the bases. They're good at playing defense. They're good at taking the extra base. They're good at making all those plays, those small plays that don't always appear in the box score, at making those plays. This team is not. It's not. Like, getting picked off like Tolbert did the other night. When that's your job to be the pinch runner, you can't. I mean, things like that. And I like Tolbert, but still, you can't. That can't happen. And so I say all that, and guess who the starting pitcher is tonight? Oh, look, Seth Lugo. Wonder how many scouts will be watching this game for Lugo. And it is a tremendous pitching matchup, by the way, if you do stay up late to watch it. Because Lugo comes into the game 5-5 with a 2.74 ERA and a WHIP of 1.08. And the starting pitcher he's facing, 7-4 with a 2.93 ERA and a WHIP of 0.97, and a valued member of the Bada Bing's AL-only rotisserie team, and one of the best names in baseball. Because it makes me think of the nature boy Ric Flair. Brian, woo! It's woo. But that's not fun for me. If I say, if you ask me, what pitcher is the Royals facing? What pitcher are the Royals facing tonight? And if I just say, Brian Woo, it's like, okay, fine. But then if you say, hey, what starting pitcher, who are they facing tonight? And if I say, Brian Woo! Then you're like, oh, I'm watching that game. That's exciting to me. This guy could strut off the mound. He's good, too. See, I've just made this game exciting for you. Lugo either trying to coax a win out of this team and give the Royals brass faith that they can make a run at this, or pitching and performing and auditioning for his next team. Either way, let's hope Lugo pitches well. Because no matter what they do, it benefits them for him to pitch really well. Especially after he's pitched well against contenders his last couple of times out. Go out and, as Jake says, go out and shove against woo! All right. There's a baseball breakdown you won't get anyplace else. Thank goodness. We'll be right back after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Welcome back to New Day with SSJ on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Royals Mariners 9-10 first pitch tonight. Seth Lugo and Brian Woo on the mound. And now we invite Stan Weber in studio. Stan, good morning. How are you?
I am doing well. Good morning.
Stan, I'm glad you're here because I don't know if you could tell, Drake, in the first hour I'm off. I'm not off work, but I'm just off today. And so here's a moment I can take to give some not advice, but just share part of my story in hopes that people out there listening will make sure that your heart is in good working order, and go to the doctor and take care of yourself, especially when you get to be my age of 52 years old. As many people know that listen to the show, I have a bicuspid aortic valve, which and I have it's an inefficiency in the way it pumps blood into my system, and so I've been under the care of a wonderful cardiologist since I think I was diagnosed in 2009, and every year I go through a number of different tests to see how my heart is functioning and how if it's because it slightly is enlarged, and it will continue to do that, and they measure the rate and everything else, and so at some point I will either have to have it replaced or repaired, we think, but it's been 16 years now, and so we're still moving along. But wonderful people. And so yesterday was the big test that I have, a cardiac MRI, and they inject me with some contrast, with some dye into my system halfway through. And I'm in this thing for like anyone that's done this, an MRI is not fun. And they strap me in and they shave part of my chest, which is a difficult thing for a nurse to do because
2 hours later they're ready to work.
Right. There's a lot here, and so they just different spots, and then they have to put the IV in me so they can put the contrast in, and so like during the MRI, it's like, you can hear this voice: take a breath, hold your breath, breathe. And it's over and over again, so it drives you crazy, and so it was a new dye they were putting in, or a new contrast they were putting into my system, and halfway through they did that, and you could feel it going in, and all of a sudden I started, and you're not supposed to move in the MRI, right? And I started sneezing uncontrollably, and my legs started to itch and everything else, so I had a slight allergic reaction to the new stuff they put in my system, and it was not fun. And so then I had to take some medicine for that, and that made me kind of drowsy. And they said, well, just keep drinking some water, and that'll flush the stuff out of your system. You should be all right. But I just didn't feel right. So then I went right from there to pick up my family, and we went out and got a quick bite to eat. And then we went to the Jurassic World. Sports Radio 810 hosted a Jurassic World screening. And, I got out there, got up, asked some trivia questions, gave away some stuff. Thank you to the listeners that won tickets on the show. And, I saw some dinosaurs, maybe some I didn't see. I remember Scarlett Johansson. I remember, hey, that's the Lincoln Lawyer from Netflix. He's in it. And there was a lot of great actors. It was good stuff, but I didn't know. Sometimes you don't realize that you dozed off, but maybe you did. I don't know. And it was fun, but I kept feeling an elbow from my wife. Like, what? It's awesome. And so I'm not like, and then after the movie, I told him, I said, I do not feel good at all. Like, one of the side effects is like you're real nauseous, super nauseous. Went home, fell asleep, woke up like, I'm like groggy trying to fight through this, and I'm here, so I just don't feel like I'm all there. And then, usually, Jake is here to yell at me, and Jake's too nice to yell at me to kind of whip me into shape. And then you said it feels like Friday when you got here. And I'm like, I don't know what it feels like. If you told me it was Monday right now, I'd have to agree with you. And then I see you walking in here. I go, oh, it's Friday. I said, no, it's not, because tomorrow's Friday. It's Thursday. So I'm all over the place. So thank you for being here, Stan.
Day of the work week is what we'll say it is.
That's what I like.
So if you hear my voice, it's not Friday, but it is good news. You hear my voice, you know it's the last work day of the week. normally. A couple questions on your story, though.
Oh, boy.
Because I tried to listen closely, but there's a couple things missing that I wanted to ask about.
Sure.
First of all, did you complete the MRI? Because it seems like
yeah.
there the allergic reaction might have called a timeout. Were you able to settle down and get the work done? Okay. It almost sounded like you had to leave and come back another day to do it.
I sneezed a couple of times, and then they said, "Are you okay?" And then it got under control, and I was able to control it. And then they went on, and they finished, and I had to be in there for another 30 minutes after that. And then I got through it. And then when I got out of there, they said, you have any itching? I said, yeah, my legs are kind of itching and this other stuff. So then afterwards, they took care of that. But that's a great question, because if I would have kept sneezing, that would have been a problem. But I was able to.
Okay, good. So you don't have to go back.
No, it was.
And then you didn't tell us about the news. Is the news good?
Well, I don't know. Then they'll see. That's
okay.
As Tom Petty said, the waiting is the hardest part. And so then
you don't know the results of everything.
My cardiologist will get the results. She'll look at it and decide, okay, you know what? And usually I'll get a phone call from the nurse. Say, hey, doctor looked at it. She thinks you're fine. You're good. And then go ahead and we'll call you in 10 months and schedule your annual. Or we'll call you in 6 months. We want to see you again in 6 months.
Did you get any hints that by other people's reaction to what they saw, or they really don't see? It's more computerized?
I'm in that thing. I don't see nothing there on the other
good.
side. And they just make sure that the pictures, the doctor orders what she wants to see, and they make sure that they get it. And so they got it, and they were good. And so now this is the part I don't like, and waiting,
Waiting's hard.
But they get back to me pretty quick.
But also hard is when you start the waiting program, you believe, but you see some hints that aren't good.
Oh, yeah.
When I hurt my knee on a Saturday in spring football, not spring game Saturday, the Saturday before. So we're scrimmaging hard back in the day. And I take a step and my knee it's almost like something metal hit another metal, like zzz, not pain, just a funny jiggle in there. And I said, I might have hurt my knee. And so I went all the rest of Saturday thinking, well, it doesn't hurt. And I don't know if it feels a little different, but generally it doesn't feel different. So I go in on Sunday morning to the doctor in the training room at a football facility, beautiful. You got trainers, you got the doctor in, and he starts looking at my knee, and he works on the good knee first, the one that wasn't hurt. He yanks on it, and like they do to check on your ACL, and he's talking. And I see this line of people, probably a dozen at least, grown-ups and experts, but also a ton of student managers that are there that help so much, taping ankles, hooking you up to machines, working you out if you're injured. Tons of staff there. And he is just talking to them like he's in medical school, and he goes, you see right here, and I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at his good knee first. And then he got my other knee, and he starts going, and he starts talking, and he's saying, right here. And all of a sudden, tears rolling down the face of some of the ladies who were looking at me.
Really?
Because I'm just calm thinking, whatever. I'm on, this isn't a good sign. And then he says, as he's grabbing my bad knee, see how he's fighting me right here? Look at him. His muscles are just like all the way from my butt up through every part of my leg. It's in kind of a V right now, is fighting him to not let him yank on the bottom of my leg because the ACL was completely gone.
Right.
Blown up. And so it was all loose. And he's talking to him going, see how he's fighting me, right? Look at this. He does not want me to move this. And tears are running down people's faces. And I go, I'm waiting for the answer, but I don't think I like.
Right.
So I just wondering if you got any hints, because that's scary too.
Let me tell
when they
you.
go, hey, we'll get back to you, the doctor will get back to you. But they're giving you that look like, ooh, this isn't going to be good.
I don't know.
That's makes the waiting worse. I'm just pointing out.
I don't know, Drake, if you ever do this, or Stan, or anyone. And so I there are times I love technology, and there's sometimes I don't love it. And so I do everything through I have an app, the patient portal, right? And so that's where I do my check-in for my appointment. I have all the information there. I can go on there and see every appointment that I have. I can click on it, and it'll show me what the results were and what was talked about, everything that the doctor said after the appointment, all my medications that I've had over the last 5 years.
You can read what the doctor said?
Oh, yeah.
Or wrote down?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's like social media, maybe too much information.
Right. Well, and so there's also a category of test results.
Mm-hmm.
And the test results normally are posted on my patient portal before the doctor sees them and can call me with the results. Like I did a full
so you get your full you get to try to do the evaluation yourself.
Well, I did blood work a couple of weeks ago as part of my trip to go see my cardiologist, and then it's the full panel from cholesterol to everything you could possibly think of, right? Like 30 different results. And I go on, then I'm reading these different results. I have no idea what they mean, but guess what I do? Google, WebMD. And I'm looking at these things, and I'm trying, and then finally my wife said, will you stop? She's going to tell you, and when you go
with expertise.
Right, and exactly what all this means. And so what I don't want is I'm afraid I'm going to get the MRI results and then look at it and see what the notes are and try to figure things out on my own and then drive myself crazy. As Lebo knows, I'm extremely OCD, and he likes to push my buttons and trigger things for me. And so what I'm hoping is I can avoid looking at the patient, but I'm in under great care and in great hands. And if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do. But I encourage you, people, if you feel like something's wrong, if you don't feel quite right, I ended up having to go originally to the emergency room because I was shoveling snow in a snowstorm.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
And I passed out. And the snow was so deep, I didn't fall. I was kind of like slumped. And then I woke up. I go, what just happened? And I didn't feel right, and I couldn't breathe. And so then the snowstorm was so bad, we couldn't get out of our cul-de-sac. And don't forget my buddy Big Tom, who I talk about quite a bit on the show. He had a big SUV. He came and got me and took me to the ER, and they just checked me, and they kept me overnight. And just as I was getting ready to leave, the doctor came in and said, you know what? We have something we're going to talk to you about. We found out you have a bicuspid aortic valve, and they explained it to me and all this. And that's how it started. So my point is, if you feel something, if you think something's not right, whether it's your heart or anything else, go to the doctor. All right? Sometimes, especially fellas, we feel like, you know what, I'm not going to the doctor. Go to the doctor. Get tested. If whatever it is, do it for yourself. Do it for your family. And then hopefully you can live a long and healthy life. So,
and if you want to just add to that,
yeah,
even if you feel fine,
right,
you should get your PSA tested.
That's exactly right.
Prostate cancer is the one that attacks men more than anything else, and you don't feel anything. Like at least you had something that triggered you to go to ER.
Right,
Big Tom to come get you. Wow. Indicator, and all it is part of a blood test. So if you're healthy out there and you're rolling, and you're getting closer to 50 years old, like Steven, just do that because prostate cancer can be addressed very well if it's caught early.
And that's something I always say when I tell you about Heartland Men's Health, and you hear me talking about Heartland Men's Health. When you go there to see if you have low T or for any other reason, you go there for your medical consult, which includes a T and PSA test. And so, at the very least, when you go to Heartland Men's Health, you get that PSA test, which is very important. Listen to Stan. All right, when we come back, we'll talk baseball. We'll talk about whatever Stan wants to talk about. He's going to put me on his back and carry me through this show, at least until 8 o'clock. And then after that, we got Dieter and Sherm. Both of them can carry me. Jesse Newell, not so much. I don't know. I think I'll just walk along with Jesse Newell. We'll take a break. Back after this on WHB. I love this song. Thank you, Drake. Thank you. You were listening. I referenced this. This is wonderful. Do you like this song?
Petty's great.
Thank you. That's another thing. If you have a bucket list of artists you would like to see in concert, don't wait. Because a couple of times I had a chance to go see Tom Petty, and I would say, I really want to go see Tom Petty, but it just didn't work out with my schedule. And it was always like, I'll see him next time. And then the last time he came through, I couldn't go, and I was mad. I'll go see him next time. And then next time never happened. And so I wish I could have seen Tom Petty in concert. And so if you got somebody you want to go see in concert, go see him. All right? You're a music lover, Drake.
Absolutely.
Is the lead singer for Journey leaving after this summer?
Is he?
I don't know. I thought I saw that on TV, but I'm not a music guy.
The replacement, Ariel.
He's been there for 20 years, maybe?
Yeah. I've seen him. I did not
They
see
performed
Journey with
in
Steve Perry.
studio on just a regular morning show
Yeah.
with no atmosphere. And as soon as they hit the first note, it's like,
Oh, no, that guy's
whoa,
great.
they sounded great.
What's your biggest bucket list that you missed that you didn't get a chance to see? Like for me, like of all time, I wish I could have seen Elvis, but I really wasn't old enough to be able to do that on my own. And he did come to Kansas City when I was like a toddler, and my uncle and my mom went. I would used to tell my mom, "Why didn't you take me?" She goes, "Because we only had 2 tickets, and you were a baby." Thank you. Was there a big bucket list that you missed out on?
The Beatles, but
Right, but you couldn't. Yeah.
Right. So Nirvana, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. There you
Because
go.
I've seen a lot of the. I still go see a lot of '80s bands. Cause
I see your Facebook posts.
Like you say, you're running out of time to see them, so I'm
Right.
going to see them as often as I can. I went over to St. Louis, saw Simple Minds a couple weeks ago. Fantastic. But yeah, I guess Nirvana, because there weren't a lot of opportunities.
Who would you like to see I don't know how much you love going to concerts. If you like going to concerts, is there somebody that you've never seen that you would like to see, like a bucket list?
Probably not, because that's not my arena. I'm not any expert on that. My favorite song is Celebration by Kool and the Gang.
I saw Kool and the Gang at Grinders, and it was awesome.
So I saw Kool and the Gang down at the Power and Light stage, right where you get on for the sports activities
Stan
down
Weber,
there.
fan of Kool and the Gang. I like this.
So I saw them. Taylor Swift is a icon now, and a big Chiefs fan. I saw her on her Red Tour in Sprint Center, it was called then.
Yeah, I was there.
Not T-Mobile.
I was there.
And the guy before her became super famous. Is he from Ireland or?
Oh, was it Ed Sheeran?
Yeah, Ed Sheeran, and he was doing something like playing something and then recording it, and then playing something else and recording it and just adding on. Does that make sense? I don't know what
Yes.
that's called, but it wasn't a band up there with him. He would do stuff, and he would just build and build and build and show his talent.
A long time ago when she was she was a teenager. I went because I'm a big George Strait fan. We went to, and I think it was a Kemper. I'm not sure. I can't remember right. Jake might look it up. Who knows? But I went to see George Strait with my wife, and opening up, it was, and we didn't know who Taylor Swift was, and I didn't remember this. So I look back. She was the first opening act, and then Ronnie Millsap came on stage. And Drake, I've told you this story. That was one of the most shocking moments of my life at a concert, because I'm not joking. I thought Ronnie Millsap was dead, and I didn't know.
I've heard this story.
Right.
Yes.
And then when they said, "Welcome to the stage, Ronnie Millsap," and I was like,
You thought it was an
God.
Elvis
Well, I
impersonator?
didn't know, and I look around, and it was him. He walked through this. I go, Susan. So
I have
What
not
are you
gone to many
laughing for?
concerts, but I have seen. I just popped in my mind. Michael Jackson in Arrowhead.
Oh yeah.
Was that 1984?
Yeah, the bad for the I saw him for the Bad tour, and then that was the Victory tour in '84 at Arrowhead Stadium. That's right, the Jackson 5.
So
the
for a guy who doesn't go to concerts,
pretty good.
I can
You go to the
check
big
a couple.
ones.
Well,
You go to the
Michael
big ones.
Jackson was incredible.
That's right. I saw Prince 4 times. That's probably my favorite.
In Kansas City, or
Yes.
did you roll around?
4 times in Kansas City.
Never got to see him.
No, you never saw Prince,
Never
Did you
did.
see Michael Jackson?
Never saw Michael Jackson.
but you're more of a rock guy, right?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know what's your
Todd Lebo, you and Todd?
Yeah, rock. Yeah.
No, Lebo's that's a different level of rock.
Yeah,
It's Lebo rock.
Lebo's music all sounds the same to me. Like it's just a
If Lebo had-
banging feel of guitar
yeah,
and
that's a good way to
drum,
describe
and
Todd.
it just kind of
If Todd had hair,
doesn't
it would be
fit
long.
the Todd Liebel I know, who walks around here and talks about sports all the time. But that's his getaway, I guess.
Do you want to talk about the Royals? We don't have to.
Well, I was going to ask you. You didn't let me finish the questions about the story you told, and maybe we get new listeners all the time, right? So you told about how you had to have a MRI on your heart, and didn't want to trigger any bad feelings. But anyway, it's a big day, and you talked about many, many things. But it wasn't the best of days, and you had things going on. You said you went home. You had different reactions. You didn't feel well. Did you watch the Royals?
Yes,
because I just wanted to say, did you finish it off with that?
I did.
Am I the only guy
and that didn't make me feel better, Stan?
I know, that's what I thought. That's what I was going to ask, because back, spinning it back to sports, watching the Royals, okay, we know they can't score. Okay, I know that. But why is it frustrates me about how awful they are at running the bases, situational decisions, and I'll call it even defense. Because did you see the ball hit back to the pitcher with a simple play at second to just get the Mariner out with no problem, and then he dances a few steps, and then they don't tag him correctly, and he gets back safe? I mean, we've seen that, twice in 2 weeks?
Look.
Didn't we see that the other day also when he didn't throw? Was it home? Guys not knowing how to slide into bases, not how to put tags on, getting thrown out, slipping on third base, not touching the bag as soon as possible, getting thrown out, stealing. I mean,
everything's magnified.
I'm just telling you, they're 40 and 47. Is that correct?
Yes.
Couldn't it easily be, even with this hitting, 47 and 40? I mean, how many games do they lose just barely on some dumb stuff?
Or just how many times?
Fundamentals I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you're into all the players, and I get that. Your depth of knowledge on this baseball is way past mine. I'm just talking about if you're going to do anything, be good at the fundamentals.
Right. That can make the difference.
Yankees can hit home runs. Right. Royals need to be perfect on fundamentals. And I think they're getting beaten in that area all the time. Am I wrong about that?
No, but different sport. But how many times in the past several years has there been a game, a 50-50 game that could go either way, but then in the fourth quarter, when it's time to make all the right plays and all the right decisions and come through in the clutch, the Chiefs make the right plays and or the opposition makes a big mistake, and then the Chiefs win by a field goal.
That's why the Chiefs started last year 15-1.
Right. And
they could have easily been 10-6.
And for the Royals, how many times, and again, last night, how many times in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning have they come up with runners in scoring position or save? And I keep going back. This is the biggest example, which was mind-blowing to me, was last Friday night when Caglione comes up with the bases loaded and 1 out, down 1 against the Dodgers with the crowd on their feet at the very minimum.
To win the series.
Right. Or for the very minimum, get a fly ball and tie the game.
Exactly.
The one thing you can't do, double play, end of game. They have had so many opportunities in late innings to come through with timely hitting, clutch, whatever you want, and it just doesn't happen. And that plays into base running mistakes, defensive mistakes, mental errors, all those moments that decide a game. They're terrible at it.
Yeah, and that just surprises me. Hitting with runners in scoring position is a lot like Patrick Mahomes making that 3rd down and 8 pass, down by 4. I get all that, and they're not good at that. And the hitting's just woeful, and they don't score runs and all that. But not doing these other fundamental things at the wrong time, too. I mean, making a losing play. Did you see the line, the hard shot to third base?
Yep.
I mean, how many major leaguers, it's a one-hop, hard-hit ball with the bases loaded or second and third for the Mariners?
And he's usually really good.
Many major leaguers just snag the ball, bang, and say, thanks for hitting it hard. Third base, go back because you're going to get thrown out at home. Throw the ball to first, 2 outs, and you get out of the inning. Instead, ball goes off the glove. I mean, how many times do things like that happen? That's what's weird to me is I'm still stuck on the fundamentals rather than all the player movements. But I got to ask you, because you mentioned Cags, and you've been a big advocate of his, obviously, before he came up to be a Royal. Did you think about at all pinch hitting for him last night? He'd struck out twice. He's 0 for 3. There's 1 out when he came up. And were the bases loaded, or was it just 2 runners on?
But who?
No, I'm just asking. Did you ever think about that?
No.
Okay.
Because I think about pinch hitting when there's a guy on the bench that I want to see hit. And that's more like
Dane Quirk, or what was his name?
Dane Orge.
Dane Orge.
Like,
great pinch hitter.
I go back to
I just wondered because I thought, boy, what's going to happen right here? And he struck out.
I go back to what Ned Yost said about Alcides Escobar. And I remember having this discussion and playing Ned Yost's comments on the show when he had Escobar up in the 8th or 9th inning in a couple of moments with the game on the line, and he didn't come through. And at that point, there were still questions about whether or not Escobar was going to be able to be the guy moving forward, right?
Not just leadoff hitter,
right.
The guy at all playing.
And Ned said that we're keeping him in those situations so he can learn. He's going to have to fail and get through this, because when we are good, then he's going to be up in those situations and he's going to come through for us. Now it's a little bit different because when Escobar was going through that, the Royals weren't a contender, and so that was a part more about development and growth. But now Caglione is starting off on a team that was supposed to be a contender. They had expectations, but I still subscribe to that same theory. He's got to, and every major leaguer that I've had on the show, I've asked him the same question: what do you do with him? You got to stick with him, even though it's painful right now, because there's going to be a payoff, and there's just not a lot he can gain right now, AA or AAA. The only thing he can gain, which they did do with guys before him, is he might need a mental reset, but I say stick with him because, like, what are your options? What else?
Well, I just thought of you last night.
Yeah.
When I thought Steven's probably still up. It's fairly late. But that was an 8:40 Central first pitch, not a – did you say it's 9:10 tonight?
Yes, for some reason it's moved, which is great.
That
for
makes
everyone.
a big difference.
Right.
That extra half hour when you're heading toward midnight or 11:30. But anyway, I thought, I'm sure Steven's not thinking pitch hitting right here, but –
no,
because you're thinking for the long term, but I was thinking for this game, in this situation, either it's going to be a fun celebration that you're going to be excited. I thought about you. Is he going to get a hit? But I just wondered.
He's had a lot of opportunities, and like I said, he hasn't come through. The Royals haven't come through, and that's why they are where they are right now. We'll take a break back after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB.